the map, the British, the Colonials. It is very early on a foggy morning at Germantown. Sullivan proceeds down the Limekiln Road. Armstrong reaches Ridge Road. Smallwood reaches the Russell Town Road. Howe's forces advance forward to protect Germantown. Washington and Greene stop near Chew House. Hearing trouble in Germantown, Sullivan deploys on the hills and waits for the rest of the column to follow up. As Howe's small force of dragoons make the way up the road, most of the rest of his force manages to cross the Wissahickon, and he deploys Nefassen's command east of the Wissahickon. Armstrong deploys his militia along the hill line. He can't see them yet, but he can hear the horses coming up the road. Smallwood stops at a little farmhouse on the north side of a hill. He's hiding, unknown, from the British army, which he can hear just to the west of him. Greene moves to clear the resistance from Germantown. Washington moves his forces to join his two flanking commanders. After far too much effort, the detachment is finally rousted from Chew House. It's mid-morning and Washington swings into Germantown from the east. Smallwood, after conferring with the local farmer, advances his force into the woods just north of Frankfort Creek. Nefassen arrives, racing up the Germantown pike. Anxious, Sullivan holds, waiting for Greene's forces to catch up. Howe's dragoons hit the stretched-out militia line. The militia fall back to the next hill. Abercrombie's detachment is caught in a trap as they fall back. Surrounded, they are killed to a man. But they have delayed Greene's colonial advance. It's late morning, and still the fog cloys. Washington has Greene straighten his line as they ready for their attack. Cornwallis continues his flanking maneuver. Armstrong successfully falls back in a fighting retreat. He knows his forces are more valuable as a threat than in actually doing damage. Washington brings his troops into line. Smallwood continues his secret, sneaky flanking maneuver, crossing Frankfort Creek and stopping at the edge of the wood before the Point North Road. Nefassen rides up and down the line, steadying his command. It's a very thin, stretched-out line. He's waiting to hear that Howe has broken through. It's early afternoon, and he's expecting Cornwallis to arrive with some grenadiers. Howe hears combat starting over south of Germantown. He throws his troops into march column and has them double timing it. Smallwood holds where he is. Nefassen has his troops fade back in the fog. Cornwallis arrives with the grenadiers. Smallwood continues his quiet flanking maneuver. Greene's troops move forward. Armstrong continues to hold. It's mid-afternoon, it's mostly been a battle maneuver. Will that change? Sullivan would like it to. Nefassen elects to hold. Cornwallis has to be here soon. Howe captures Germantown and his lead elements run right into Greene and his HQ. Washington wheels and hits his column. Smallwood reaches the Germantown pike, sitting on the high ground. Armstrong falls back and continues to draw off desperately needed British forces. Greene commits Wayne's forces to fill the hole that Washington's reacting troops have left. It's late afternoon, the battle comes alive. They may be in column, but Matthew's finest British household guard are too much. Further back, the Hessians are a little disrupted, but Washington only sent a small detachment, and they did more than could be expected. Greene's troops eat up what Nefassen has set before them. Intense but indecisive fighting on Nefassen's right flank, but of course the grenadiers hold and drive back the Virginians. It's late afternoon. Armstrong's militia is still drawing off units desperately needed elsewhere. In Germantown, it looks like the British have set up under Howe a local administration. The American troops are exhausted. The British under Nefassen are outnumbered but holding, and Smallwood has captured the British line of communications. If they don't change that, all the British troops will be considered lost at night. Cornwallis sends the grenadiers to clear the line. Nefassen works on holding the position and pushing back the Colonials. Washington has his troops wheel around and continue the attack. J. Grant's regiment, along with the dragoons, continue their assault, trying to finish off the militia. Sullivan's troops keep up the pressure. Smallwood's forces fall back. His back up against the wall, Armstrong holds. Armstrong's forces fall back into the wood. McDougall's men of Connecticut execute a vicious fighting withdrawal, making Matthew's men pay. Wayne's men overrun and capture the British cannon. Nafossen's stretched out command just evaporates under the heavy pressure of the Colonial drive. The Colonial troops are exhausted, but there's just a few exhausted British left. With the remaining hour or so of light, the British have run out of time. Smallwood's militia has divided across and cut off the Germantown pike, which is the British line of supply, their line of communications. This is a British baggage train. This is a few British survivors left. They can't recapture the Germantown pike. The Grenadiers can't attack both. They gotta attack one or the other. They do not have the men, essentially, to capture the Germantown pike. The Colonials can still draw supply from this point here. This is where one of their supply lines. They're all supplied, and you can actually follow this long, tenuous route around, and even Armstrong can be supplied. But none of the British troops. Their critical line has been caught. The British army has been surrounded and destroyed. Major victory by the Colonial forces. Hail Washington. Good game.